What's good, everybody? Lovely Soul Empress here. Coming to talk about Ascension. I feel like today's going to be quite interesting. I'm going to give it a second till I see everybody's coming in. What's good, Tamila? Just gonna light some. What's good, Jennifer LaRoe? What's good, Sugar Plum? Just gonna get some Palo Santo going before we jump into this subject. What's good, Shamika? Okay. So, for those of you that was in the live on Wednesday, when I did the pick a card, and I said to you when I got to pile 3 that I immediately got a third eye headache. Okay? So I had brought that up in the live. What's good, Jennifer? And I was talking about Ascension in general. So I had to come back on Wednesday night to do the What's Good Wednesday, and I did. I always, I keep my obligations with you guys. So I came on, I did the What's Good Wednesday. In between, what's good, Cynthia? In between, I took a break, okay, to see if I could, calm it down, but it didn't work. Wednesday night, all through the night, I had a headache, and it kept waking me up out of my sleep. I was listening to meditation music, which I probably do. I probably sleep to meditation music on most weeks, like 5 times a week at least, okay? So anyway, I kept waking up. When I woke up Thursday morning, I still had the headache, okay? And if you remember when I said in the video that Spirit wanted me to take a day off, but I was like, I can't today. I got too much going on. Maybe tomorrow. So I did, okay? Yesterday I listened to my body, and what's good, Leah Lou? My body was like, chill out, girl. So I did. I took care of some shipments and things like that, but I didn't tap in with Spirit just to give my myself a break. What's good, Copenhagen? But I knew when I woke up yesterday that the next video was going to be about Ascension, because they were basically telling me we're going to talk about Ascension. So that's what we're going to do today. I don't know if this is going to be cards or not. They'll tell me as we're going through whether they want me to pull cards, okay? But we're going to talk about Ascension today, okay? So I'm going to preface this by saying that this is not in place of medical care, okay? Some of these ascension symptoms, what's good, Crystal Jade? They can come from an illness that you have. So you must always, do your research, see your doctors, and do all of that. But we're talking about ascension symptoms today. Okay, so what are some of the most common ones? And I made some notes because I knew that, and before I even get into that, I already knew in the morning when I woke up that I was going to have to do the Ascension video today. Like I knew that yesterday. Then I had a friend of mine's, okay, call me. And she basically had a situation that outlined a particular ascension. And I was like, okay, yeah, they're really giving me the message now. So we're going to get into it. All right. So some of the ascension symptoms, and not limited to, because everybody's path is different. Fatigue, headaches, lightheadedness, ringing of the ear, food intolerance, You could even notice a more pungent smell in your body. Okay, rashes, food sensitivity. These are all things that can be physically telling you that you're going through some type of ascension. Okay, you could be very fit. Okay, normally have a very rigorous schedule. What's good, Angelina? Normally have a very rigorous schedule, and yet, you know, go through a month. I'm not talking about a day. Everybody needs a day to recharge. I took one yesterday, I recharged, right? But, you know, sometimes you might feel tired for a whole month and be like, oh my goodness, like what's happening? It's probably a level of ascension. If it's not, if you've already ruled out medical causes, you know, that's what you need to be looking at, okay? So I feel like let's talk about exactly, okay? So before we go further, let's talk about some things that could trigger ascension. Okay, I should have made some notes about that. But what can trigger ascension? A new situation, a new job, something trauma related, a breakup, a divorce, a death, right? These are all things that could trigger an ascension, right? Or it could just be a time for you to, that spirit taps you and it's like, listen, you've been dealing with this for too long. I'm going to go ahead and, you know, push an ascension to come in, okay? Promise, can you feed the birds for me, please? So that's one way, okay? But there are many ways that think about your life in the 3D, right? When you went to kindergarten and you went into first grade, that was an ascension, right? In your physical existence. Now, before, maybe you were just coming to school to color. Now you got to learn your ABCs. Life is like that in the spiritual realm too. Okay, so even just getting married can cause an ascension. Okay, there's many different ascension. We're always ascending. Okay, some things are physical, some things are spiritual, and something can cross and be both. Okay, so let's talk about that. Now we're gonna go into some of the more spiritual signs, because not all of them will be physical, or you could have some that are physical and also spiritual, right? What do I mean by that? Let's say you're experiencing fatigue, right? But you can't shut your mind off at night to go to sleep. Okay? So that's something that you're having spiritually and physically. Okay? Or you're starting to have visions, but you also get headaches right in the middle of your forehead, third eye, right? So these things can be dually, okay? I'm just listing things so that you can kind of get a picture. And like I said, this can be one or multiple, okay? And you'll experience this several times in your life, okay? So let's talk about some of the more spiritual signs of ascension. You could be having strange dreams. Okay, these dreams could include people that have passed over. These dreams can be natural disasters. These dreams can be spirit animals. Okay, these are all signs of ascension. Okay, astral travel. Okay, where you actually see yourself like flying. Okay, or you're in one house, and let's say in a relative's house, and this relative lives in Atlanta, and then the dream switches and now you're in Colorado. That's astral traveling. Okay, seeing a lot of synchronicities, 1111, 333, right? These are also signs like the universe could be communicating with you like, hey, You how every time you've been eating beef, we're trying to tell you that the beef is jacking up your body and it's not helping you digest and lighten up. Okay, so there's many ways that the ascensions can be interconnected. Don't just think that, oh, I'm having it in the physical but I'm not having it in the spiritual, or vice versa. Okay, so synchronicities, energy attacks. Okay, a lot of people will go through an ascension and they'll be like, somebody's working me. Could be, right? Let's say somebody is working you. Half the time when somebody's working you, it's like working out a spiritual muscle, right? You endure the attack and then you actually power up from it. So that too can result in ascension, right? So when somebody is like working you, or you think that they're working you, like, small part of you should kind of be grateful, right? Because you're going to get past that. It's going to cause maybe a temporary blockage, but then you're going to grow a spiritual strength or wisdom. Okay? And it could be any numbers, Sugar Plum. It could be 555. It doesn't matter. It could be, 2114. But you keep seeing 2114, right? So that might not be the same number, but there's a spiritual message in that for you. Okay? Like I said, energy attacks or energy sensitivity, because that can go either way, right? You could feel like you're under energy attack, or you could feel like, let's say you have a group of friends, right? And you've always been around this group of friends. You actually love being around them, right? And then like the last 3 times though, you left drained, right? It could be that you've tapped into a new frequency and that there's someone that's there that has a change in their frequency or their lower frequency, and now that's pulling on you. Okay, so you could feel physically drained. This could happen with strangers. Okay, the more tapped in you become, the more you're going to recognize those energies that are outside of you and the ones that are inside. Okay, so like I said, these sensitivities. Now, how can you interpret this? So let's say, like, this is something that I've always had my whole entire life. I could go to, and I would consider myself to be an introverted extrovert, or an extroverted introvert. In other words, meaning like I can be in a group full of people, or I could come on here and talk to you guys collectively, right? But I'm going to need every day at least an hour to myself with nobody. No phone, no TV, no nothing. And that's how I purify my energy. Everybody's different, okay? But even as a child, I always needed to separate myself to recalibrate. Okay, now I recognize that, as I'm older, that what I was doing was purging other people's energies, okay? Another thing that could be happening spiritually, okay, you could be hearing things, okay, ear ringing or changes in frequency that sounds like a hum. Okay, you could be seeing things. You could be seeing people's auras. You could be seeing orbs more. You could be seeing spirit guides, or thinking that you saw something out of the corner of your eye and you look, but it keeps happening over and over. These are versions of ascension. You could be tasting food that is not in your mouth. Okay? You could be smelling food or a scent that is not around you. These are all ways of communicating, because we all have different gifts. I could have a clairaudient where I'm actually hearing like music and stuff, right? But there's another one. What's it called? Clairsentient, where you tap into people's energy and you can read it. I can do that too. You understand? So what I might be activated in one thing, you could be activated in something completely different. Okay, so before I proceed, I kind of wanted to go back to something that Spirit had put on me to talk about. Okay, so in May of 2020, when I started this channel, right, I was starting to get messages that was putting all the veins of training that I had together. Okay. So what I mean by that is that when I was young, my aunt got me my first, deja vu is another one. I had gotten, my aunt got me my first, like, basically tarot deck. I was 13. And I was intrigued by that, right? And, you know, when I was about 18 or 19, this is when I really started working with them more, okay? And that came out of, like, a hard situation that I was in. Probably by the time I was 23 or so, I started becoming very interested in different types of religions. Maybe not so much like going to different churches, but more trying to understand what the separate beliefs were, right? By the time and I always was very drawn to astrology, but I didn't really try to learn things about astrology. Like, I kind of had a basic understanding. And maybe that's one of my gifts, you know, that I always kind of was tapped into that energy. But when I got to about 25, 28, this is when I started, like, trying to understand birth charts. And I was starting to do birth charts for my friends. Okay. As a child, I said it the other day, I used to play levitation, right? So what happened was, you know, I was studying all these things kind of independently of each other, never really understanding that there was intersections of these things. So back to what I was saying, in May of 2020, it was as if I had a chakra alignment, a kundalini awakening, whatever you want to call it, where things started to make sense to me and everything started to align, and I was feeling the frequency of understanding these things coming together. This was my first cognitive awareness. I have, you know, ascended many times. Like I said, we have physical ascensions and we have spiritual ascensions. That was the first one that I was cognizant while I was in it, that it was really happening. Okay, so what do I mean by that? I started understanding that every society over time was getting the same message, but we were seeing them differently. What am I trying to say? Whether you're ATR, whether you believe in Christianity, whether you believe in sentient beings and, you know, UFOs or whatever, right? That they were all the same. Okay? That the face that is shown to us from God, or what you call God, or source, or the divine, is the same face, but it looks different according to how they feel you best will receive it. Okay? That was the first, I was like, poof, like, oh, right? But then I started further understanding that the difference was numbers. And if you took my meditation, my manifestation 4-part webinar, we talk about that. Because the first opening statement that I make is that I wouldn't put anything in the webinar that I didn't think was a divine truth, meaning more than one culture and in time period had to have used that for me to even consider it to be fact, right? I'm trying to stay on what I'm trying to say to you. Okay, so in other words, whether it's God, Allah, whatever name you want to affix to it, they were always talking to us through numbers and frequencies, but they were giving it, think of it as hieroglyphics. They were giving it to the society or the culture in a way that they felt they could understand it, but the message was always the same. Okay, it was us that put different slants on it because we were incorporating our physical and ancestral experiences. So this is how maybe specific traditions would come about that may be different from one place to another. But what are some of the main common things? Okay, and this is kind of touching on my manifestation course, okay? Why did Egypt and South America both have pyramids? There was no phones, internet, nothing like that, right? But they both came up with this worship of the four elements. Okay, so then that means that there's something to that. So that's why I use that incorporation. Now, if you think about that, astrologers early on were already understanding that there was a connection between the divine or the cosmos and the earth and our physical being. Whereas we grow crops through the tide, right? That has to do with the moon. But as well, the effect of the full moon and believing that people are get affected by the full moon. That's a spiritual effect, but they were also using it in the physical plane because they were using it to grow crops, right? So you see how this is what happened to me 2 years ago. It was an alignment of all the different, I like to call them sciences, converging. And it was like a clarity or a supernova moment that made me understand that all the messages were basically the same. It's like a formula. Okay? So with that said, and I'm wondering if Spirit wants me to throw cards to this, and maybe I will when I finish saying some of this. What's good, Pink? So with that said, let's say you're having listen, through my whole life, growing up, I had indigestion problems, right? Now they call it gluten intolerance or whatever. Okay? So this could just be a symptom of your body saying this thing no longer aligns with you, is bringing down your frequency. That's a physical way. Just as watching, I used to love horror flicks. Okay, I am not opposed to gore, like it does not affect me. But now I find it not useful. Like the energy vibration is not calling to me because I want more food for thought or food for expansion. So now everything that I watch draws me to that. Okay, so you see how these things can come in. Now, what can help your ascension go smoother? Okay, detachment is key. Release and let go, right? So if you're holding on to old memories, old hurts, your body only interprets pain through the mind, right? So once you think about it, your body can actually calibrate and still kind of feel the pain as if it were in the moment, but it's not there. Okay, so if you're feeling heartbreak, it's because you allow your brain to think about it, right? And then your brain perceives it as happening right now, but it's not happening right now. Okay, so this is about quieting the mind. Okay, now this may not only be painful experiences. This could be what was taught to you, right? Let's use slavery for an example, right? These people were made to be slaves, and therefore they were not seeing their godliness or their power, right? So now for generations, they felt powerless. It's not only in your physical life, this can come through a line. Remember, we walk with our guides and ascended masters, okay? Right, okay, let me stop right there. Crystal saying she's been hungrier, all right? This can be because the information is coming in so quickly and you could be sitting still but not realizing that you're burning off calories way faster than you were before. And so you need more energetic food, okay? So there's many reasons. It can go either way, all right? So these things can come through old behaviors, okay? Let's say for a feminine, let's say you grew up in a household that it was like, no, the woman serves the man. She has X, Y, and Z responsibilities. And then you just wake up one day like, you know what? This isn't the 50s. I'm not doing this shit anymore. That's a version of awakening, okay? But you have to kind of detach from all of the training. So that is a way that you can see in your reality, like you've detached from something. Okay, but like with the heartbreak, that's more in a mental way where you have to actually learn to sever by practicing. Anything you do for 21 days becomes a habit, okay? This also could be experiences. So let's, for instance, use something general like a car accident, right? You could have gotten in a car accident. And then every time you go in a car, you know, and something happens or somebody goes and cuts you off, you could see flashes or flinch your body or tense up because of the experience that you had. It's just like anything else in life, right? When you have to physically and mentally detach from the experiences you had to no longer be either triggered or experience the sensation as if it was happening, right? So this is why releasing and letting go is important. Okay? Meditation. Okay? Meditation, there's many forms of meditation, and we've talked about this here before. Okay? About how one person's meditation can be one way and another person's meditation can be another. So, for instance, you might be a person that likes to meditate in silence, complete silence. The next person might need a guided meditation where they're listening to someone's voice who's preempting them to follow a specific train of thought. Another person may only need the frequency music, but doesn't want anybody speaking in it. Another person could use physicality for meditation, meaning yoga, chakra clearing, or a session, or movement, dance. Okay, another person might not even be listening to meditation music. They might be listening to Mary J. Blige. Okay, but everybody will have their own method of purging and quieting the chatter in their mind, which is the most important part. Because often it is the mind that throws us out of alignment, because we can go back to a specific second or period in time and actually feel the sensation of that moment. Or we can get caught up in the anxiety of when will this happen again, or when will I experience this pain again. And then instead of us purging the sensation we had, we're actually calling it in. Okay, so quieting the mind is essential for ascension. Lightening your frequency, okay, which is maybe why I don't feel pulled to certain things, like when I was saying like the horror movies, okay? It's not that I don't that I'm cringing. I just feel like it's not adding anything to my frequency, right? So that is another example. Now, what's another way? And this is when my friend comes into the story. But what's another way to assist yourself in these ascension times or with these symptoms? Okay, you can, first off, like I said, the relaxing, trying to release and detach from things of the past, or programming that has been put to you by your parents, by society, whatever. Meditation is the second, but the third is your angels, your spirit guides, ascendant masters, prayer, right? Because the more connected that you become, the easier it's going to be to transcend. Now, why did I say my friend brought this up? Okay, so she calls me, right? And she tells me, I had a weird experience. I have this old coworker that I used to work with. And right before, and she's been kind of going through ascension. And she's completely new to any of this, okay? But she's been kind of going through lightweight ascension for like 2 years, right? So she calls me and she tells me that she has a coworker that she hasn't worked with in several years, but they were good friends. And that right before she woke up, she heard her friend's name clear as a bell, like as if somebody said it in the room. What's good, Tara? Right? So she said that she woke up and she thought it was her imagination, but she was like, you know what? Let me call her just to be sure. Haven't spoken to her in a long time. So she calls the lady and the lady doesn't pick up, right? So she's like, well, maybe she's busy, whatever. I'll just send a text. So she sent her a text and the lady didn't respond. So 24 hours pass and she wakes up the next day and it's still like heavy on her brain. So she ends up calling the lady for the second time. The lady answers the phone and tells her, oh my God, I didn't text you back yesterday because I was just getting out of the hospital. And I needed to get home and get settled. And then by the time I was settled, I forgot to call you. But you won't believe what has happened to me in the last few weeks. Okay. And basically, the lady had a strange experience. And all of a sudden, she had chest pains. And it turned out that she was in some kind of BFib or whatever they call it. And she was actually having problems with her heart. So she went to the emergency room and they end up keeping her, and she ends up getting classified as being in congestive heart failure. And now she's leaving the hospital. This would have been Wednesday, leaving the hospital as being on the heart transplant list. Okay. So she's like, what do you think? When my friend calls me, she's like, what do you think about this? And I said to her, I said, well, not only is it confirmation, she was like, that's exactly what I thought it was, confirmation. I said, not only is it confirmation that spirit wanted you to know that, yes, they are talking to you. Because one of the biggest parts about ascension is that the way that we're raised in this culture will have you thinking like, I must be losing my mind. Like, that's not real, or that's not a message, right? Spirit gave it to her right before she woke up. Why? So that she wouldn't forget it. Because we all know that if you go back to sleep, you won't remember, right? So they gave it to her right before she woke up. They made sure that what they gave her had already happened. In other words, when she got the message to call the lady was just basically getting out of the hospital. So that means it already occurred. The reason why they gave it to her in that order was so that she could recognize, like, oh no, only spirit could have told me to call this woman. Okay, and it had already occurred. So spirit did give me that message, because they probably were like, thank you, because we've been giving you messages for like a year now, and you keep questioning whether it's us or if it's just like a coinky dink, right? So they gave her something solid proof that she has to now know, like, okay, they definitely were talking to me, right? So my advice to her in response to that, I'm like, I'm glad now that you see you've made the connection, right? Ascension. They are speaking to you. It's not a coincidence. Yes, this is spirit talking to you. They gave you a message right before you woke up. Now, the next step is how will you communicate back? Now, why do I say that? Because remember what I was saying about how the divine speaks to us. Basically, through a language they feel that we could understand. Whether that is, you know, Christianity or ATR or agnostic or whatever you want to affiliate yourself with, right? So now they've established a frequency with you and connecting with you, right? But now you have to establish a frequency back. Like, this is how I'm going to communicate with you. And this is why I'm saying the angel, ascendant masters, spirit guides, prayers, the way, because you have to establish the channel like, okay, now I understand that you're speaking to me. How do I communicate to you? Because we're on different frequencies. So what could this look like? Maybe you do something weekly or every time you go to pray, you light an incense. So now, after some time, just like it took her some time to establish that, yes, what she was hearing was them, they'll recognize that you have a routine, that every time you try to communicate with them, you light incense, or you do palo santo, or you, whatever that, or you put a cup of water, right? This establishes a connection. After some time, you may not need that incense anymore, but you are establishing a language in which you are communicating with them. Okay? Now, this could be, nature is another way, okay? Air, right? We get our messages through the air. The birds are the messengers, right? This could be incense is a way of experiencing air energy, right? You might just get in your car, roll down all your windows, and go for a drive in silence. And that is a way to feel that air energy, right? Some people like to skydive. They may not even notice that in that moment they are connecting with that air energy, right? Fire, a candle, okay? A candle. You could light a candle, stare in the flame. This is another way, right? Fireplace, even if you have a little electrical one, right? These are all things of bringing the fire element, right? Water. This could be by going to sit by a waterfall. This could be by going to the river, the lake, the ocean. This could be taking a spiritual bath, okay? You're connecting with the water element. Earth, okay? This could be sitting outside under a tree. This could be taking off your shoes and putting your feet in the ground so that way they feel that earth element and you get reconnected, right? This could be having a house plant. This could be having a whole corner where, maybe you sit still and you have a lot of plants there and it makes you feel like you're outside. This is another way, right? This is why in my home, I try to have all the elements. You see the stone? Okay, I have metals, like the metal vase, right? Fire elements, I always got candles on. Incense elements, right? The only thing I don't have in my house is and I used to have one when I was younger, like a little mini waterfall. Okay, I don't do it now, probably because my chart is almost dry of water, like seriously. So it's not an element that I rely upon heavily. Okay, but each of us is different. Okay, so I wanted to bring this to you guys because I feel like a lot of us are going, especially now, because we're having a mass awakening with the Aquarius timeline. And you may notice people who are not even spiritual are starting to incorporate, what's good, Nelson? Incorporate spirituality into their life, right? Or they're saying things that you know that they're receiving some type of ascension and may not even be aware. So as this is happening around us, okay, and as we're incorporating these new levels of ascension that are happening quite quickly right now, okay, we need to have kind of tools to know how to handle when we're going through something. So first off, let me just advise that if you're having, food irritations, try to write down what you had that day. And then if it happens again in a week, write it down again. Because there may be a common thing that is irritating you. And it could be, your body's way of telling you that you no longer, can tolerate a certain type of food. And sometimes it may be for a little period. Like my daughter went vegan, right? And she needed that for like a year. But now she's more of a pescatarian. And it may be because her body at some point was like, all right, you purified enough, but we need you to get more protein. Your body is going to tell you. Don't go by, the collective, okay? That's my first tidbit there. Okay, so it could be many different things, like if it's food, right? I recently gave up deodorant. Okay, I'm going to start making my own deodorant, and right now I'm using all natural deodorants. Why? Because deodorant has a lot of things in it that is very bad for the species in entirety, but especially women. Okay, it has, I think, aluminum, and that can cause breast cancer. And I had an elevated lymph node, right? I had an elevated lymph node for months. And this is why a few months ago, I had a procedure done. They had to make sure, okay, what was going on. And basically, when I stopped using deodorant, it's not completely gone, but the swelling went down, meaning that there was something in the deodorant that was causing my lymph nodes to react. And what does your lymph nodes do? They're telling you when something is not like infecting you or aggravating your system. Okay, so these are things that we have to start paying attention to. If you took out 4 different things, it's not saying that you're not ascending. It's saying you haven't found what maybe spirit or your body is trying to tell you that, hey, this doesn't align with your frequency right now. And I say right now because I know other people who were like vegans, and they're like, right now I can't even eat grain because it's tearing me up, and I'm eating mostly like salad and meat. There's a time and a place for everything. So don't feel like there's a formula or a template that you have to fit into. Your body will help you do that, okay? So I'm just going to throw a couple cards. I want to see what Spirit has to say about this ascension. If you guys got questions, I will try to answer them as best as I can. Let's go with this one. I haven't used this one yet. And I know that was a long-winded message, but I think Spirit wanted me to put it out because a lot of people are going through ascension right now. And we need to find ways to ease it, okay? Find ways to ease it. And it's all about lightening your frequency. Look at that. So Crystal says there's an app called Think Dirty that tells you what harmful chemicals are in deodorant, body soaps, laundry, etc. You see? And we need to become more cognizant of that. And I also feel like Aquarius season, this whole new paradigm that we're in, is going to be highlighting us using technology to help us ascend. Okay, so just like that app is there to help you know what is good and what is not good for you, right? We don't only have to use, you know, technology for social uses. Okay, I think that's going to be coming a lot more into play. Okay, Spirit, what do you want to tell us about Ascension? Is there anything you want to tell us about this Ascension since you requested that I do this live? I feel like, there is 2 cards there. Okay. So, the courageous peony, multifaceted, unique nature, let yourself be seen. So, I feel like with this multifaceted, it's going with what I'm saying, that there are many ways, and how your way may not be, you know, the person's next to you, and that you need to try to calibrate and tap into the divine so that you can find a method that works well for you. So, like, depending, even with me, most of the time I'm sleeping with meditation music. If I feel like my vibration is really low, I'm going to do some yoga because that always gets it pumping for me. Okay, so everybody's different. Maybe for you, it's, you know, channeling the inner flame and looking at the color of your inner flame, which is a whole other, we could get into that on a different day. But these are the things that will assist you into coming out of so much of the 3D and starting to focus on what's happening within, both spiritually and physically. Okay, I actually not too long ago, and Reiki has helped me tremendously, because I actually had a meditation where it felt like I was traveling through my own body and seeing, you know, what was out of alignment. Okay, you got karmic relationships here, and this goes back to the things that we're holding on to, frequencies, pain, right? It says Orion energy, polarity, soul growth, conflict, right? So the more we hold on to these old hurts, right, it feels like what's good, BJ? It feels like we are reactivating the pain sensors and tricking our body or our reality into feeling that it's still occurring to us when it's not. So by having detachment with those things, it becomes easier to be neutral, which is what you need to ascend. Okay, you also have the void here, and it says stop, embrace winter, great cosmic womb, right? So when we're in those shadow moments, we quickly want to run to the sun, right? We quickly want to come out. But in that moment of those dark energies, or that fatigue, or that, what were some of the other ones that I wrote down? Sorry. The fatigue, the lightheadedness, the headaches, instead of thinking quickly of like, what will remedy this, right? I didn't even take a Tylenol. Right? Because in that, there's something that's supposed to come through. Not saying that we should stay in pain, but we need to ask our inner self, what is really the pain? What am I really feeling? Is this actual physical pain? Is this coming from a situation, or is this trying to elevate me? Okay, this is part of that. Anything else from this deck, Spirit? Yes, the Starseed deck, yes. Baby steps. You see how Spirit's telling you it's not a rush to get out of that shadow point, or it's not a rush to hurry up and get past the ascension. You know, we've talked about the sanctity of the journey. Okay, so all of it is this recalibration, is training your body for new lessons and new experiences. Okay, it says action, follow your intuition before it makes sense, right? So tapping in is so important. establishing that language where you, not only how you receive the message, but how you communicate it back to spirit. I feel like, you know, a lot of people talk about ascension and how to find that, you know, how to understand their ascension, but they're not saying what you should do in response to it. I feel like it's very important once you start connecting to your spirit guides, that, you know, whether you are ATR or, you know, whatever your beliefs are, that you need to establish a way that you're going to be communicating back with them. And this will help to make it a more comfortable ascension. Okay. Is there anything you want us to know from this deck, Spirit? And maybe it hurts because, you know, we come into this life taking an assignment, one that we chose. But part of it is also forgetting everything that we're supposed to be doing, so that way we can remember. That's part of the thing, trying to remember, right? So maybe this is why it's so important. Like, we have to learn how to re-tap into the soul's journey and quiet the chatter, just like how we are trying to do within, and quiet the mind. Okay. The thinning of the veil, you know, is happening to us collectively. Okay, so we have to remember that while you know, we're all on different timelines, but we're all kind of experiencing the same thing, is the best way that I can put it. Envy, right? So I feel like this envy card is like, don't worry about what other gifts have, or if people are envying you, right? They might feel like you're so, oh, you're so elevated, like I wish I was like that, but they don't know what you endured to get there, right? Or vice versa, you could feel like that when you see somebody else, but remember that your mission may be different than their mission. The frequency of envy will only lower and delay your ascension. Okay, because what are we learning here in this 3D? The frequency of love in all forms. That is the journey. Okay, so two things can't hold the same space, right? So if you are still harboring envy, maybe because, you know, you had it harder than someone else, or they had it harder than you, however it goes, that's not allowing the energy of ascension or the message or the growth. Okay, you have woman holding a heart here, right? One of the main things I feel ascension is here for is to learn how to forgive, right? Because you might have been a terrible person in another life, right? And then in this life, you know, and we all have our flaws, right? But you might be very much so listening to your moral code and wonder, why does, you know, I still get done wrong, or things like that, right? Maybe because what you're supposed to be learning in this lifetime is how to forgive, right? And move on. Or maybe you were supposed to experience the very thing that you did to someone else in the last lifetime. Okay, so, you know, being able to experience these challenges, sometimes it's a loss of a relationship, or a loss of a partner, or a loss of a child, or whatever this case may be, and learning how to still be open to the frequency of love, I feel like is the main mission that we're here for. However that may transpire in your life can be different. Fifth chakra, Archangel Gabriel, right? A lot of people believe that the throat and the heart chakra is very connected. In other words, that, you know, part of the throat chakra is not only speaking one's truth, but also speaking one's soul, or speaking one's a moral compass. So it's like listening to somebody who isn't in touch with their heart chakra. You will disconnect from them mentally because it's not engaging, right? So this is, I feel like, spirit is, there's lessons in how we communicate. What we remember, I was talking about the differences in societies and how the divine had to find individual ways to deal with different cultures. We're kind of experiencing that too. Like you might have been, let's take prison for instance. The way that they speak in prison to each other and the way you would speak to somebody here in the free world, right, would be markedly different because you would be, very protective in that environment, right? So it's like we have to, we're trying to ascend to come to a place where we are communicating true form of love without fear, without trepidation, anxiety, speaking one's truth. These are all, that's not always so easy. That is a part of ascension, right? Let's say you had a domineering parent and you might not learn how to free yourself from that till you're 40 years old. That's a method of ascension. You came to this life to experience how to, break free maybe from authority. Okay, you have door to personal healing and happiness. And this is why all the ascension occurs. Because we're trying to tap into new frequencies of happiness. Okay, the garden and the gate. Right? What's the final ascension? When you actually cross over. And then you'll probably pick a new assignment. Okay? Look, angel of strength. Right? We come here, we sign up for these things purposefully so we can become stronger. Okay? Now, I got a very strange deck and I was going to wait to save this for Mystical Mondays, which by the way is going to be hot. Okay? But, I'm going to pull a card here because I feel like this does apply to this subject matter. This deck is called Past Life. Okay? Past Life. We're going to give it a shuffle. I feel like part of why we're here is to correct maybe some of the things that we've done to others and that they've done to us in past lives. And so if we could remember everything that happened, then, it would be a lot easier. But we come through forgetting so that we can come in kind of like pure heart and work it through, right? Okay, so karmic relationships. We're here to work out all the karma that we've had with people in past lives, with souls. Let's not call them people because we're energies that keep coming back, right? So in a past life, let's say in this life, you're having a problem with your mom, right? In the past life, you could have been her mom, right? Or, a lover, right? So you could have a lover who is always rebelling against anything that you request. It's probably because there was a power dynamic in the past life that is being trying to be leveled out in this one. Okay, once you start understanding that every experience you're having is a mirror of something within you, it becomes easier to be more forgiving. It doesn't mean that you have to be a doormat, but you won't internalize it. Okay, you got medicine man or woman. This also goes back to that ascension symptoms and like the frequencies and whether we're having food allergies or rashes, right? We've so come so far away from being of the old practices of knowing the herbs, okay, and tapping into our bodies and using the things that, you know, divine source or God, whatever you want to call it, gave us to heal ourselves. We've become wholly reliant on medicine. I'm not saying medicine is a bad thing, but we need to get back to that frequency. Okay, so sometimes our body is trying to tell us, hey, this doesn't align with you. Or don't you remember in the last life, you know, you have you couldn't eat pumpkin, right? And then in this life, it doesn't give you an allergic reaction, but you smell it and you abhor it, right? These are all part of our collective experience, all right? Now with this Asia card, it didn't come with a book or else I would have read it. But I feel like this can also have to do with the expansive thoughtedness of this, okay? That in this timeline right now, there's so much importance given to our differences instead of our likes, right? And remember when I was saying that for me, part of my awakening was recognizing that the universe is giving us all the same message, although they might be tailoring it per where we live or in the time that we're in ways that they feel that that culture can best understand that. And I feel like the more we know about culture and time and history, the more we will come into understanding that these faiths really are alike, that they have more in common than apart, okay? The arts. We already talked about how one person's meditation could be, you know, through music, and another person's meditation can be through movement of body or dance. And another person's, I saw somebody who was doing painting and doing, basically they don't pull cards, they were channeling while they paint. Okay, and they're giving spiritual messages, and I found that intriguing. I saw that like a month ago. I found that intriguing because I always painted a lot. Okay, and I feel like, you know, when I paint, it's usually when I'm going through a hard time, right? So maybe that's one way that I calibrate the energy out. Okay, I feel like this is one of the other ways that society has taken us apart from our ascension, because they've stopped a lot of the schools. They don't pay attention to feeding the children the arts as much as they used to. And this was a way that we, in you know, differently in everybody, that we tapped in to our own gifts. Okay, and then knighthood. I feel like this knighthood card has to do with the levels of ascension. Okay, so you could say that, yes, this is a masculine energy and maybe they came through to be a warrior. Or you could say that every time you complete an assignment, whether it's in this 3D or in, you know, continued lifetimes, that it's like you ascend another step. So we're ascending in one lifetime, but we continuously ascend through the different lifetimes. Okay, so I feel like we need to see ourselves as part of the collective cog, okay, that is turning instead of so much separation. Okay, trees, food, and hunger. You know, there's the tree of life, yes. I also feel like the photosynthesis, the air exchange, the cycle, right? I feel like trees have very long lives. It can take a tree of, you know, some trees are hundreds of years old, right? Although they stand, it feels like still. I feel like, you know, spirit is showing me like a binary code. like if you could look at a tree and see that it's just like molecules, atoms made up of the same thing that you are, but having a different experience. What if that's what this is? That we're all coming here to have different experiences, but maybe the last time you were a tree, or you were a goldfish, or you were a leaf, or you know, okay? And then you have food and hunger. And Crystal, you know, you touched on this, but the fluctuation of what we need there. Listen, I have gotten to the point where I usually eat only one time a day. Okay, but there are days where I'm like a savage and I eat everything that is around me. And I personally feel that for my own calibration, it has to do with how much energy I am expending here. Okay, so I just feel like Spirit wanted us to talk about that. I'm gonna pull a tarot, see if they have any other messages. Spirit, is there anything else you want us to touch on before I get up out of here? I done took up a whole hour with these people. Okay. So when you don't understand what's happening to you, these are those sleepless nights, the headaches, you know, the frequency changing, the panic. Am I dying? What the hell's happening to me? Right? But it's really Spirit coming in and trying to balance you out. Okay, so that you can have those experiences that you need, and you continue to ascend, and you continue to take on the mission, right? Here you have the Page of Cups. You know, and I said that, you know, life is about love. It's also about forgiveness. But are you forgiving them, or are you forgiving you? Because remember, it's all a mirror. And if you're having this experience, either you had it in the past or you did it to somebody else, right? So what if you were able to forgive yourself for the things that you might have done in another lifetime that you are not aware of, for the things you've allowed happen to yourself? This is the healthy detachment and saying, this is an experience that my soul is having. Okay, rather than saying this is being done to me. Okay, I feel like this allows us to take on the ascensions, get the message that we need, and then move on to the next one, which will come again. There may be a break. It could be, you know, immediately after. It could be a year later. The point is that it's like a staircase, okay? Nine of Pentacles. Why do we experience this? Because just like, you know, I'm sure you've heard the saying, you know, you come into this world, unless you're a twin, right? You come into this world alone, and even then they don't come out at the same time. They come out one, or, you know, after the other, right? So you come into this world alone, and most likely you go out of this world alone, right? And this is all about becoming better, okay? More independent, recognizing that it's almost like you're watching a movie, like you're watching yourself incorporate new experiences to have an elevated growth, right? And this is what brings about happiness. Now, I don't feel like it's a mistake that there's 3 cups, because there's a partnership here, okay? I feel like, you know, you could say the divine masculine, divine feminine, and source, right? But it doesn't matter how you label these cups. Your higher self, your inner self, source, right? The divine feminine, divine masculine, the goddess energy or God energy is a partnership. Okay, it's a partnership. And what are you learning? What are you studying? The Ace of Cups, love, the frequency of love. Love of all things, love of the earth, love of each other, love of happiness, of the frequency, love of the sorrow, because it allows you to have new joys or reach new levels, right? What goes up must come down, right? So I feel like this is what it's all about. You got the Three of Pentacles here and the collaboration. Right? The collaboration of all the parts of yourself coming into union. Is that not divine? Okay? The activation of what we value. Okay? Almost like branded into the soul. But we forget and we come here to work that out. Okay? So that's pretty much what I wanted to go over with you guys. I would love to hear your thoughts about your own ascension journey, about what you might be experiencing now. All right. So, yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on all of this. All right. So I am gonna get up out of here and I'm gonna let you guys enjoy your weekend. Okay. But food for thought. Okay. What's your ascension look like? What has it brought you? Right? How are you coping with ascension? What do you do to ease your ascension? Drop a comment, let me know. All right. So I'd just like to say thank you to my returning subscribers for coming through and spending a little time with me. And if you're a new viewer and you felt that resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and comment, as I'd love to have you as part of the Lovely Soul family. I'm wishing you all light and love, and enjoy your weekend. Blessings on blessings. Bye-bye.